Bulavinaka, welcome to episode 2 of my podcast, Let Me Pod You with Andhy Blake. Now, today I have a very exciting guest that I have on the show who will be sharing about her experiences and her plans for the future. You might remember her in August last year when she was crowned as the 68th Miss Hibiscus representing Tents and Onions. Please welcome to the show, Melania Tora. I am very excited to have you on the podcast, Melania. First of all, congratulations on being the 68th Miss Hibiscus, which you won the title last August. Then how it's coming up so fast. We're about to go into preparations again for Miss Hibiscus 2025. How did your life change after you was crowned at the Silver Civic Foreshore the night of the Hibiscus crowning? Like, how has your life changed since?
Oh gosh, how has it not changed? Is a better question, but I think it's opened up so many more relationships with people, with like the people of Fiji, because I wasn't on social media the whole week during Hibiscus. When I came out of it, I was a bit shocked at the attention and the I guess the reaction of the public to me, and so I've just been loving meeting so many different people, and I get to really work in spaces and be a part of conversations that I'm really passionate about.
Right.
So yeah, it's been a really great experience.
Yeah. So the journey has been. You've enjoyed the journey so far as being a public figure, and then in the history books as the 68th Miss Hibiscus.
Oh, definitely. I am more introverted though and reserved. So it's taking me a bit to I guess replenish my own energy after I meet so many people.
Yes.
But yeah, for the most part, I'm loving it.
Great, that's good. What I wanted to start on was to talk about your roots. Can you just tell me and our viewers about your upbringing in Natalao in Sambeto, and of course how you are connected, or you have you have blood ties also to the village of Ndalidhoni in Vanuatu. Like, how did that shape you to the young woman that you are today?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. So my father is from Natalao in Sambeto, and I wasn't raised in the village. When I was born in 2000, there was a coup, and my grandfather was a politician at the time.
Right.
And so we had to move back to the village, and speaking the dialect was actually my first language.
Wow.
And then we had to move to the city, and I completely lost the language. It's one of my biggest regrets to this day. I wish my mom had spoken Fijian to me, but I mean, now it's up to me, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of hustle and bustle in the first years of my life really shaped me. Just having to be, I guess, on guard and just needing to be, I guess, aware of what's happening around me. I've always been really hyper aware of things. And my mom, she's from Dalidhoni, which is in Vanuatu, Lao. And what I noticed about her side of the family is that they're such hard workers.
Right.
Like, they find something and they work to get it. And I think it's something about being so far from their home and being placed in the city that I guess produces this sort of I need to make it. And they're amazing workers. They're so humble. And so I think the way that my parents were brought up, although they're so different, they've given me these qualities that have really shaped who I am. So I think talking more to my father's side, he's very, his family's very headstrong, and they're very good at working the land, and they're also very humble. So there's both sides of that.
Great, and we saw that representation of Sambeto during the Hibiscus Festival in the traditional costume display, where you came out with that beautiful gown that was designed by Temisia.
Yes.
And you were so proud of that heritage, and it reflected in your entire preparations and throughout the Hibiscus Festival last year. And for our viewers that don't know about Ndalidhoni, they are the traditional landowners of one of the most, I would say, wonders of Fiji, which is Gilangila, the Bay of Islands.
Yeah.
And so when me and Melania go to Vanuatu, we don't need to do sevu because our family is from Dalidhoni, so we just go straight and then jump on the boat and out to Gila and swim.
Yeah.
How lucky. How lucky,
So lucky.
for both of
Thank
us
you.
to have blood ties.
Yeah.
Now, at just 24, well, you're almost 25, you've accomplished so much.
Thank you.
What inspired you to pursue psychology, and what threw you into this journey of giving back to not just the community, to Fiji?
Thank you. So in terms of psychology, I actually wanted to be a graphic designer up until I was in my last year of high school. So I kind of stumbled into psychology, or I think it was obviously God's divine hand.
Yes.
But in the moment, I had come back from Australia in Form 7 and did my last year here in Fiji at ISS, and they didn't have my same subjects.
Right.
So I had to take psychology. I didn't have a choice. And from the first lesson, I was just like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I just
Wow.
absolutely loved it. And so it taught me so much about not only myself, but how other people behave and why they behave, and just to look a little bit deeper
Yes.
than what you see at surface level. And I think that's a skill that everyone can benefit
Yeah.
from. Just growing up, I think a few years ago, my mom, she stood for elections and she started doing a lot of community work. And so as I followed her along, I started realizing the link between psychology and the community.
Yes.
And how that's missing the mental health resources
Right.
for the community. And so that's what's driven my passion. I was just I can fill a need. So I feel like I have a responsibility to do that.
I am so glad and so excited and so proud to hear that you are passionate about mental health, because in the first episode of this podcast, where I shared my story about my personal journey with my struggles with mental health, I got to share about the facilities in Fiji and the need and the much needed resources that we need in the country to assist people with mental health. And with our culture, one thing that I've observed with our Fijian culture is that a lot of us don't realize that we have mental health, because we tend to just treat it as sort of just a normal feeling. But then, luckily for me, when I lived in New Zealand, I was diagnosed with depression at the time. And then I was able to understand, because I did my own research about mental health and what depression was. And I got to understand more about the illness, which kind of gave me more knowledge about it. And coming to Fiji, I saw and I see that there is a need. There is a big gap in Fiji for help and awareness. And I'm so glad that you are heading down that path.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree. Huge gap.
Yeah, fantastic. Now let's talk about your education and your professional path. From Deakin University to the University of the South Pacific, your academic journey is impressive. Everybody knows you're a brain box. What motivated you to focus on psychology, and how has your education influenced your current work?
Wow. Like I said, just being in that one class at ISS really just changed what I wanted to do and what I was passionate about. And what I noticed here in Fiji is that we don't really have the registering body for psychology.
Right.
So you can't really become a certified psychologist here because we don't have a registering body. So I wanted to go overseas and follow theirs, just so I know that I'm getting the education I need to become a good qualified psychologist.
Yeah.
So that really informed my decision to go to Deakin. And then from Deakin, I think halfway through my degree, I had to come back because of COVID. And then I graduated here in Fiji. And then I wanted to go to USP specifically because I wanted to do research here in Fiji. And my master's would allow me to do that.
Right.
So all my research is based here and done here. And that's what kept me from, I guess, going back overseas.
Yes.
Yeah.
You needed, I think your calling was to be in Fiji,
Yeah.
so that you experience it, and then you get to open up your own psychology, your own practice, so that you can help a lot of Fijians, me included.
That's the goal. Yes.
Your thesis topic is childhood trauma among sex workers in Fiji. That's incredible, and it's very heavy
Yes.
and important. What inspired you to explore this area, and what's a key insight you have learned so far about that?
Wow. Okay, I actually might start crying because this is a topic that's really close to my heart. When my mom was running for election again in 2022, she got involved with an organization called Survival Advocacy Network, which is run by a lady named Sesanieli Obui, and it's basically a safe house for sex workers.
Yeah.
And so she did a lot of work with them, and she brought me along. Thank goodness. Finally, following my mom is, giving me some benefits, but it was an amazing experience just to be on the ground and listen to their stories. And they're quite a marginalized population. Nobody really wants to get involved with them, but they're so important, and they're just human beings with so much hurt and pain behind their decision to enter sex work. Because also entering sex work here in Fiji is not a safe occupation.
Yeah.
Listing your occupation as sex work is legal, but everything to do with sex work is illegal in our law. Okay. So the laws they don't protect our sex workers from victimization, from violence. If they do get assaulted, or if they do get, I guess, violated during their job,
right,
the process to getting legal action or justice is just so hard. Because again, they were doing something illegal, but it's a really confusing and tough situation. And so seeing that, I was like, why would people choose this occupation? And so I was like, there has to be something else in the story, there's a missing link. And so I was like, I feel like my research could help in that, like, what does your past have to say about why you chose this occupation that's so dangerous, it's so high risk. And so I think the main thing that I've learned studying, because I've just finished my data collection, is that everyone has a story, and it's not black and white.
So important.
There's so much in the background that you don't consider, and I think we could all do to have just a bit more grace towards these people when we have no idea what they've been through.
We'll just take a short break, and then when we return, we'll talk more about your advocacy and volunteerism with some of the work that you do. And so if you're watching our episode today, you can use this opportunity to just go fill up your coffee or grab a snack or a drink and join us straight after our sponsor break. So let's talk a bit about your advocacy and volunteerism. I would like to talk to you first about your passion, like your passionate projects. You've been involved with so many organizations such as Lifeline Fiji, Inspire Pacific, Coffee on the Streets, to name just a few. Which of these experiences that has the biggest impact on you personally, that has had the biggest impact on you personally?
I'd have to pick two from the list.
Sure.
The first one would be in 2022 when I was invited to be a speaker at this self-care retreat for cancer survivors, just because like the age difference was so big between me and the ladies, and the experiences were just so different. I mean, I've never had a terminal illness. I've never had to fight through something like that. So to I guess, be able to just be around them, hear their stories and their testimonies was so inspiring. And the fact that I got to help them through their trauma with what they experienced was just such a blessing. I was just so filled with that. The second thing was Coffee on the Streets, where what is Coffee on the Streets? Yeah, so it's an initiative by Love Suva Foundation, which is a group of churches. I'm part of Fiji Connect, which is one of the churches involved, and it's basically a group of women who go out every fortnight on Saturday nights, and we just take donuts and coffee, and we just drive along Railway Street or wherever we see women working, sex workers, and we just talk to them and we share coffee with them. We eat donuts with them. Honestly, that's my favorite part, is the eating with them. That's why I go. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, it's just a time to get to know them personally and just to talk to them, because everyone comes by and they just like either want something from them or they hurl insults at them.
Right.
So to show
And you
the
get
love-
to observe this at the same time?
100%. Well, I'm there like with them, like
Yeah.
talking to them. So I get to listen to their experiences. I get to show them the love of Jesus,
Yeah.
which is what Love Suva is about.
Yeah.
And just like fellowship with them. It's a
Yeah.
really great experience.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
it's so interesting that you mentioned that, because like, I mean, I guess myself and a lot of Fijians that live in Suva and Osori or in the country would not know that these sort of organizations exist where you would go out on the streets and talk to like our sex workers, which is so good that you are bringing this to light, because then it allows, I guess, other individuals to come forth and support and, you know, donate funds or whatever that they can to assist with it. So this is still an ongoing thing that you and your fellow women are doing.
Yeah, still going.
Yeah.
I haven't been the past few weeks, but now that we're off of break, we're starting to get back into the flow of things. But yeah, thank you so much for the platform that I get to speak about this kind of stuff.
course.
Because you're right. If nobody knows about it, then how can they help?
Right.
So-
And so for those of our viewers that are watching and they were interested in contributing or coming forth to wanting to reach out and helping, what would be the best way that they can contact the organization to assist?
Definitely. So we have a Facebook page and an Instagram, Love Suva Foundation. Or if you have any of the churches' Instagrams, Fiji Connect has an Instagram as well. And just express your interest. Just be like, hey, I'd love to help. You don't actually have to be there. It is quite late on Saturday night, so about 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. But if you can give with tea stuff or just funds, I think that would be the best way to contribute, because
Wow.
also not a lot of people, they're not really comfortable with lots of people coming
Right.
at once and kind of bombarding them.
Right.
So maybe that would probably be the best.
And I guess it's also because you guys have been doing it for such a lengthy period of time, they would have built trust with you.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And they were very suspicious of us at first. I
Yeah.
mean, who gives things away for free, right?
Right.
There's always an expectation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that relationship now we have is really special.
Right. Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's really good to hear. And thank you for sharing that on the podcast, Melania. Now we'll talk about, I'm going to try and pronounce this word correctly. You can correct me if I'm not pronouncing it well. We're going to talk about your psychoeducation
Yeah.
and advocacy.
Okay. Nice.
So you've worked closely with vulnerable populations, especially sex workers, which we currently are speaking about. What challenges have you encountered in this space, and how do you approach these with compassion and purpose?
Definitely. I think the main challenge for academics especially is we kind of dehumanize people in terms of we're always doing theory.
Right.
When it's time to do practical, we look at people as like a case, not an actual
Oh
person.
my gosh, yes, that is so true.
I think the person on the other side can feel that. And so as I was going through my education, I was like, I don't actually know how to interact with a person. Like, how do I help them through or make them comfortable with speaking to me when I'm just stating the textbook facts? You know what I
Right.
mean? It makes no sense. And so I'm so grateful that, you know, the Lord answered my prayer in that way. Putting us into the community has made my talking to people and relating to them and just having compassion first.
Yeah.
The main lesson in all of this. And so once we build that relationship and I approach them with love, after that, then I can start, kind of decoding the situation
Right.
and helping them through it.
Right.
But they're a human being first and foremost before they're a case that I kind of work through.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, when you're just sharing that bit of information that you're just talking about there, it kind of pulled a string at my heart, because when I was talking about my struggles with my mental experience and then how I tried to seek help in Fiji, that is how I felt. I felt like I was just data collection.
Yes.
And
Right.
there wasn't really anyone that was relatable that I could just sit and feel safe and speak to. And so it led me to almost committing suicide because of the
Wow.
experience that I had. But then luckily, I had a cousin who I had reached out to, and then she had come at my darkest hour. So I believe that, God sent her. She was an angel that came and just spoke to me and immediately shifted my mood. And then I reached out to a doctor in Nandi who was able to go through the symptoms of what I was facing at the time, and then finally was able to re-diagnose or correct the diagnosis from depression to bipolar.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that's one thing that I've also noticed with the mental health facilities here in Fiji is that what you mentioned, like it's just all about data collection, and that's how I feel it is like in the institution such as St. Giles, like there's really no help. So please, once you graduate, open up your practice, and I'm sure you will be doing a lot of service to the many Fijians that are out there and listening to the podcast that are going through what I have been through. Because I know that there are hundreds of Fijians that don't just come forth and talk about their story. So it's just using this platform to talk about what we are talking about is just to empower our fellow Fijians and Pacific Islanders, because topics like this is so taboo in our culture.
So right.
Yeah.
That's so right. And, I think I'm not the only one who can do it, see people as people. I think what really changed things for me, because at the same time, you don't want to be practicing when you're not ready, in terms of like throwing practical into your curriculum and like you still haven't learned the basic stuff. But I think what set me apart was that I was able to go into the community not as a psychologist, but as a person willing to help. And so I feel like, to our youth, if you're wanting to get into psychology, I think on the side, it's really wise to just get some community experience and just get in there, because without that, you lose compassion, you lose love, you lose grace in the textbook, checking the box,
Yes.
kind of things that we have to do as psychologists.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited for your future. Big things ahead coming up. Now let's talk about youth empowerment. As a Bella Girl Camp leader, what is a Bella Girl Camp leader? Before I ask you the question.
Yes, right. So Bella Girl Camp is something that was started by City Women, a woman named Letitia Shelton. She's from Toowoomba in Australia. She set up a program here in Fiji that goes to different schools and teaches girls identity, worth, and value.
Right.
So me as a Bella Girl leader, there's a bunch of us, maybe about 8 of us in the team. We're all older women.
Yeah.
But we just want to come around these girls and just help them through what they're going through, because being a teenage girl is so difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And there's so much going on. And I know that one thing we all have in common as Bella Girl leaders is we wish we had an older sister type figure that would just help us kind of navigate these really tough situations and these seasons. So that's really the heart of it. We go into schools and sometimes there are programs outside of it. And we really just spend time with the girls. We teach them about red flags, green flags, how to tell if a boy really likes you or not, the important stuff that nobody wants to talk about. But
oh, that's really, really good. All right. So the question I have for you was, as a Bella Girl Camp leader and youth leader at Fiji Connect, what advice do you often share with young girls and teens about discovering their identity and values?
Wow. For me, it's a simple answer, and that's like, if you want to know who you are, ask whose you are or who made you. And so for me, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ.
Same.
And I feel like your identity, as solid as some of this, the worldly talk may be about who you are, because the world will try and tell you who you are.
Absolutely.
I think the main thing for me is looking at who created me, who made me, and getting who I am from that. And so I always tell them, if you're really looking for who you are, like solid answers, look in the Word of God.
Right.
Pray, because He who made you can tell you who you are.
Yeah.
But outside of that, if it's talking about worth or value, honestly, it's all encompassing the same thing, for me, at least. And as we walk through with the girls, like their value and identity. I think sometimes we're at odds with culture, and where they are placed in culture,
Right.
they're always in the background and stuff. And so trying to find their voice and just telling them it's okay to state your opinion. You're not going to be crucified for
Right.
it,
Yeah.
and just empowering them is one thing that we really try and do.
Yeah, and it's really good that you and your fellow team workers are doing what you're doing, especially now that we are living in a digital age where there's social media and the expectations of social media and the trends that every teenager or young women have to look a certain way and act a certain way and have certain materialistic things, and that pressure that it puts on young women in society. And I just feel like with what you guys are doing, like I think we need more of that in our society, just so that it kind of like really informs young women and young men, the value, teach them the value of who they really are. So that I think, just going to what you said about like believing in Jesus, because I'm like driven by faith, and just with that, like I'm always watching like podcasts like from Joyce Myers, who I call Mama Joyce, and then Joel Osteen, and like they've always talking about how you being content with who you are and knowing who you are in Christ. And I think that's really important as well.
So important.
Because I just feel like now our teenagers and young women and men just get so distracted with everything that's happening on social media.
100%. And when you don't know who you are, you look for it in everything around you.
Right.
And that's so dangerous.
Oh my
that's
gosh, it
like
is.
so many issues like we're not realizing stem from the fact that our young people don't know who they are.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're worth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I think that's really important.
And another thing that I just wanted to highlight was, for me, like once I started to really identify and like really grow more spiritually, I became more sort of like connected to the Vanua, or the land in Fiji, so that it made me more proud of who I was. That really helped me and shaped me, like being like Fijian, coming from the province of Tailevu, registered into the Volnikawambula of my village, which is Wunimono. And that, alongside with my faith, kind of like molded me to being more content. So I guess, like if we could have like young people that have, I don't know, like maybe like leaders such as yourself that would be able to tell them, that this is what you should be aspiring to be or to do, then I think they'll become more empowered.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And you're so right in the sense that like it's not only like who you are, but like what's around us, our environment. And culture is, you can't not talk about culture.
Yeah.
Like it's so important. And so I love the fact that you brought that up, because we also need to be teaching our young people where they come from.
Right.
And like the world around them, and what a rich culture we as Fijians have, because it's beautiful once you start getting into. Speaking
of culture, like I'm so proud, like because like of my past, I used to do. I was in the tourism industry for about 11 months, and so we would travel North America and Asia, which was the markets that I looked after, and I was so proud to be a Fijian and just representing and talking about the unique landscapes that we have and our people and the 14 provinces. And of course, I'll always push Tailevu first, since that, in my opinion, we are like the number one province.
Nice.
Shout out to all the Tailevuans out there. But it just makes me so proud to be a Fijian and just speak the language.
Yeah.
And I feel like now, just slightly going off topic, the language, I don't know whether it's just me, but I'm kind of like seeing that we are slowly starting to lose our language, like speaking Itauke and the various dialects, because like I see like a lot of young Itauke youths in our area, and they speak English, and I'm like, man, I speak the Itauke language, but I'm not fluent, but I can understand and have a conversation, and that just sort of like leads to shaping who I am.
Definitely. Oh man, our language is what connects us, you know what I mean? And one of my biggest insecurities is I am not fluent in Fijian, and I just like in Itauke, and I'm just like, every time I think about it, I'm just like, I need to get on that because it's so important, not only with relating to my people, but also for myself. Like there's so many things that you can't, I guess, directly translate to English, but they're so important to understand what our people are going through or the environment. So yeah, that's definitely something that needs to be pushed on nowadays, learning the language.
Absolutely, I agree. Now, let's go to your Miss Hibiscus journey. Since you are the reigning Miss Hibiscus as we record this podcast, we'll talk about the crowning moment.
Okay.
What was it like stepping into the role of Miss Hibiscus, and how has this platform amplified your voice for change?
Wow. What was it like stepping into the Miss Hibiscus role? It was an adjustment period for sure. I'm somebody who loves my privacy. I love my own time. And so the responsibility of the platform was definitely felt, but I never at any moment thought that I didn't want it.
Right.
This is something that I've prayed for. This is something that I've, been prepared for in secret. And so the fact that I get to come out and like serve my people on a bigger platform and stage is something that I'm grateful for every single day. In terms of amplifying what I have to say, a lot of it has to do with mental health and identity. And so the fact that I have so many, I guess, eyes on me now is a blessing because I get to spread that message and really honestly, as long as one person is impacted by it, I feel like my job's done.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
That's how I always feel too.
Yeah, so it's for the one always. But yeah, it's been such a journey, and I'm so blessed that I get to talk about what I'm passionate about to more young people and people all over the world. So.
Fantastic, Melania. No wonder you won the crown in that beautiful gown, by the way.
Thank you, Temesia. Love that guy.
You said you want to use your privilege and title to help vulnerable populations. Can you share a specific goal or project you're working on that excites you with your platform?
Yes, I can. Thank you so much for asking. So I just came back from a meeting for the first episode of this, and I'm going to start a series on my social media called NGO Spotlight.
Great.
Which highlights in obviously a very short amount of time because our attention span is kind of short nowadays. But just talking about the different NGOs I've worked with and what they do, how to get in contact with them, the people in the team, and what they need from us. So just kind of making that, filling rather that missing link between the people and the people on the ground doing the work so that we can really come together and see what we're interested in and help out.
Fantastic.
So, yeah,
that's exciting.
I'm really excited for that.
So when does that launch?
Hopefully by the time this podcast is out, they'll have a few episodes out, but I filmed the first one next week, Wednesday.
And then that will be on your social media page?
And theirs as well.
Fantastic.
So
all right. So we can all expect to look out for that. And then we'll also share it on our page.
Okay, thank
Resonance
you.
Media, once you launch that. Yeah. So we'll just take another short break. Fill up your coffee, your water, your juice. Visit the toilet or whatever you need to do, and then join us straight after the break as we talk to the 68th Miss Hibiscus, Melania Tora. Welcome back to our final segment. I'm chatting to our 68th Miss Hibiscus, Melania Tora, who we've been talking about some interesting subjects. We've talked about your education, where you've come from, your causes that you are currently pursuing, your platforms and the outreach work that you were doing, as well as your Miss Hibiscus journey. So now I wanted to ask you a bit of personal and reflective questions.
Ooh, I'm nervous.
We'll talk about self-care and resilience. You've spoken at self-care retreats and worked with cancer survivors, which you mentioned in the past segment. How do you practice self-care while balancing so much?
Wow. That's a great question. Self-care for me is pretty simple. And I get made fun of a lot for it. I love coloring
Right.
and listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
So, and that's like that's not changed since Hibiscus. That's
Yeah.
where I like kind of go to. And I guess those are the ones that I say a lot, but truly self-care for me is spending time with the Lord.
Yeah.
Whether it be writing in my journal or just I have a spot out on the roof of my house and I sit there, I put my headphones on and I can see like the sky and like the greenery behind Lodala Beach. And it's just a beautiful time to just like sit with Jesus, just relax and take a breath.
Yes.
Because things can get really hectic outside. But I think in order for me to really give my all to people, I need to be filling my own cup. And so that's a really good.
That is so good to hear, because it's so good that you've shared that, because I have friends that in New Zealand and in Los Angeles that are with Hillsong Church who also shared the same sort of like advice when I asked them like how do they balance what they do, because they're also heavily involved in the arts and entertainment industry. And so what they also said was like because in the industry that they're in, they're always giving.
Yeah.
And so in order for them to like balance, they would go back and spend time with Jesus. They would be listening to podcasts, worship music, and then just getting that energy, that positive energy built back up.
Definitely.
And I've started doing that as well. So I know exactly how it feels.
With your podcast,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Isn't it just such a good tool?
It's
Goodness.
brilliant. And then for me, like when I'm driving to work in the mornings, that is always my time to put on worship music, because I do know that you listen to worship music when you're driving, because
Yes,
you shared that with me.
Because of my road rage.
Your road rage. Yeah. And like when I drive in the morning from like the peak hour, the traffic, you're always stuck in traffic from on the Nosori side, and then you get stuck in traffic from Tamavua, and then meet traffic again in St. Joseph.
Goodness, yeah.
The worship music really calms me down.
Yes.
And I'm just focused on my day and just being positive.
There you go. That's all you need. Telling
So,
you, it's a lifesaver.
Great minds think alike. Okay, so let's talk about motivation. What keeps you motivated when faced with the weight of the challenges your work focuses on?
I think I just have to keep remembering that it's not about me. Like I asked for this platform. I prayed so hard that the Lord would use me to do His will, right? And so the fact that I get to do this, honestly, what keeps me motivated is it's a blessing. It's a privilege to be able to have a platform like this. And again, I'm only Miss Hibiscus for a year.
Right.
And so I feel like I just need to give it my all. There's no other option for me. And that's not really a weight, but it's more of a motivation to keep going.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Great. And looking ahead, say in 10 years' time, where do you see yourself and how do you hope to have impacted Fiji and beyond?
Oh, gosh. I hope that by the end of 10 years, my voice would be, I guess, coinciding or related to, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you come from, or, your socioeconomic, socioeconomic, thank you,
Right.
English, status, or where you were born, you know what I mean, the color of your skin, your gender. You have the right to mental health resources. You have the right to take care of yourself,
Right.
and to be, I guess, to have access to the best of the best when it comes to mental health and all other things. The fact that we get certain resources just because we can afford it shouldn't be the case. I mean, it's a basic human right to take care of your mind. And so I feel like for 10 years from now, I hope the people of Fiji will, I guess, remember my reign as one that is freeing and allowed them to be vulnerable and speak up about what's really important, and just encourage them to take care of their mental health. That's all I can really
That is so powerful, and I'm sure you will and have already made an impact in Fiji, and with all the schools that you visited in the past year. After you got crowned, you went to visit quite a few schools around the Central Division, where you spoke to young women, and I'm sure you would have impacted them with just your journey and your personal story. So you're already on that pathway.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And obviously, the thing about, I have this platform because of God. If they forget me and just remember him, also job done for me.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that is so good. And I love how you put God at the forefront before you put yourself. So it's God, then you, and then the cause that you do. Because I think that's that is the perfect formula to being so successful in this day and age. Is that we always putting God first, and then ourselves second. We're always submitting our plans and being and allowing God to lead us down the right path, and then giving us what is rightfully ours.
Yeah, definitely. And he's a God of victory. Like, it's already been given to him. And one thing that people keep like thanking me for is mentioning like the Lord in all of my speeches. But I'm sure you can relate to this, Andhy. If you had been there at my lowest moment, you'd know that it was only Jesus. Like, he was the only reason I'm here today. It's not like, have to take it off the list, have to mention Jesus. Like, no. It's rightfully his, the thanks and the glory. And so I think it's like, it's not so much like I need to say it, but I have to say it because he is the reason.
Yes, that is so true.
Yeah.
When I shared in my my solo podcast, the first episode, viewers can go back to last week's episode, where when I was at my lowest and I was at the a mental hospital in Christchurch in New Zealand,
right.
I was so far from God at the time, because like I was so I was in so much emotional pain that I had just was far removed from my spiritual self. I didn't even want to have any conversations with God. But then in the 11th hour, when I was given the opportunity to have electroconvulsive therapy, that's when they were going to use electricity to shock my brain to erase all the trauma that had happened to me in my childhood. It was that moment that I sat in my room and I just prayed for the first time in, I don't know, months. And I just felt a sense of peace that just overcame me. And I could clearly hear the voice of the Holy Spirit saying that my healing lay elsewhere.
Wow.
And it was through that I didn't go through with the ECT procedure. And then I look back at that journey now and I'm like, wow, had I not listened to the Holy Spirit and just went with that procedure, I don't know where I would have ended up, because like now I've literally, with my career, like I can proudly say that I've ticked off a lot of achievements that I had wanted to achieve, but this has always been through being obedient to God.
Wow.
And just allowing him to guide me and doing, like I've always made plans. Like and one thing that I've learned from a great mentor, Pastor Rachel Bulona from the New Methodist Church, is to always make a list of like what you want to achieve, and then you pray about it and give it to God. Wow. And so I've always done that, and it's worked. It has worked, and so I've always like stuck to it. And sometimes I would write things down, it'll never happen, and then the Holy Spirit would tell me that it's not meant for you. You need, and He'll give it to somebody else, but then it's just testing to see like how I handle being in a situation where something that I really wanted was given to somebody else. But it teaches me and it humbles me.
100%. And one thing we always forget is God's no is also his favor in our life.
Yeah.
It's not always yes, 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 you know?
Yeah.
You have no idea what spaces he's protecting you from in the moment. Like, our human brains can't fathom it. And so the fact that he says no is also his mercy and his love for you, because he's got something so much better in store.
Yeah.
And also just talking about what therapy you were going to go through, the one that erases that part of you. I'm so glad that you didn't go through that because your testimony is so powerful.
Thank you.
And I feel like the Lord knew that, and he was like, I know, as horrible as those situations were, you were going to set people free with what you have been through. And so just like in your last episode, you told your story, like, instantly people are being set free. If not people, then at least one person.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about, right?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, like people don't really know the trauma and the pain of mental health until you are going through it. And then when you come out of it with the help of God, like you feel so much stronger, and you feel like you can change the world and help at least one person, like you said.
Yeah, 100%. That's all it's for.
All right, my final question to you. For someone that's listening today who might be struggling or feeling lost, what's one message you'd like to leave them with?
Right. I'm going to look in the camera. I think for anyone who's struggling with their mental health, I just hope you know that you're not alone, and that this isn't, the best of your life. The best is always yet to come. And so I really encourage you, speak to someone about it. Just share it with someone you trust, because once you share it, you release that burden off of yourself and you get to start healing. It's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way. We always have these really hard experiences in life, but we can turn it into something beautiful if we just open ourselves up to that healing process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melania. That was such great advice, and I'm sure you would have really touched the lives of so many people that are just watching this episode today and just being more inspired by you. Like, even just in the short time that we've been having this conversation, and from what you've shared, like you've inspired me as well. So I'm just so grateful that you've accepted my invitation to be on the podcast and to share your story and to talk about the plans for your future. And I wish you the very best of luck in your future plans and your future goals. And
Thank you.
I'll keep seeing you as we're family. I look forward to seeing you on the stage when you crown the 69th Miss Hibiscus this year.
Oh gosh, thank you so much, Andhy. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much.